If you know what culture really is, it's the guts of the business. It's what binds us together. It's what separates us. It's all of those dynamics that happen inside the company that don't show up on daggum dashboards. I said, how much would you pay for trust?
Hey, how's it going? It's Tim Brown, and this is the Hook Better Leads podcast, and I have Reggie Brock on for the second time. How you doing, Reggie?
Good, man. Good to see you, Tim.
Yes, sir. At culturaldisruptor.com, your brand Propel is helping people essentially understand their culture and make changes from their culture, but it's kind of uncomfortable because you actually have accountability as a leader around what's falling through the cracks and where your team feels unsupported. How do you, I'd love to get into a little bit of your background, but real quick, just to kick it off, how do you make sure this doesn't descend into anarchy of people just like complaining?
Yeah. I don't know that can be sidestepped, honestly. I think that you're going to have in any business people who are looking to grow and those who aren't. And some have reached a point to where they don't think they need any help. You can't do anything about that. But to your point, anything that has longevity to it in terms of building, there's got to be some of this pain associated with it. And I think for so long we thought that we could fix our problems just based upon tools and service, our systems and processes. And people are realizing that the people that are coming to work every day have a valuable role there, and they're struggling with things that need to be dealt with once and for all. And it's hard. You're right. It's hard. It's hard to find people who are ready to go back to the gym. They maybe do it for a week in January, and then we're back to the same old routines. But this is hard work but rewarding work. But it just takes a special group of people who are willing to be accountable, and that's hard to find. It is.
So Propel, at culturaldisruptor.com, you kind of got this system for extracting information from teams and aggregating it and summarizing in ways that a leader can actually use. My question for you before we get into more about like how to take the principles from this, even if whether or not you use Propel or not, I want to try to give people some actionable stuff around culture and accountability. But before we get into that, can you just give me you've been around a second, give me the last couple of decades of what led to Propel.
Does your company want to build your brand and get more jobs in the neighborhoods you're currently working in?
The Brick by Brick playbook allows you to establish your brand, your reputation, and gain trust in any neighborhood in your service area with a series of 4 postcards sent once a week to the neighbors of your current jobs. If you want to get more work in the neighborhoods you're currently working in, get with the team at Dope Marketing and get your Brick by Brick playbook set up today.
So, as most people who know me know, my dad's a preacher. I grew up in a preacher's home. And one of the things that I've noticed about him that's come back to haunt me almost. My dad's 92 years old now. I'm going to actually see him next week in Dallas. But I watched his life, and what I realized is a part of his life attached to who I became. He was a servant. He loved people. He prioritized people, even to the point of family pain for us sometimes. But he was always mindful of other people. And I watched that for so long, it was hard to get it out of my system. And so everything that I've done, even in roofing, has always, the greatest points of fulfillment for me have always been, how do I see people grow by eliminating some roadblocks, so to speak, so they can live a life that they're happy with and satisfied with, and they're contributing to other people. That's where all this came from. It's like not me wanting to build some kind of brand that has a large level of acceptance to it. It's more about how do I help people live their life in a community. You see, that's the problem, Tim. We've learned isolation so well, we don't even need each other anymore. And we feel like these silos we jump in are so safe, there's no reason for us to come out. But I'm hopeful that I can be a part of helping people to realize we really do need each other. We're built for each other. And when you come to work every day, you're a part of something that involves other people, and how we interact with each other creates opportunity, not just for us individually to move forward, but understanding talent can turn into team and it benefit everybody. So this whole cycle for me is full now. I mean, it's kind of come around from a kid seeing it to now a grown man practicing it. And I'm very grateful for that install and deposit my dad made into my life.
As you're approaching this new venture, what do you just, if you don't mind, give me some of the challenges that you've faced trying to distill what you've learned around culture and around leadership insights.
Yeah.
That have been,
first thing I think is
challenging.
Yeah. I think the first thing is we've forgotten that everybody needs to belong somewhere. What we've tended to do, especially in roofing, is we've built these temporary facilities that people just kind of come in and front door and leave the back door. There's this kind of cycle that we've accepted of. It's kind of, I call it the Airbnb mentality. It's like we build something really nice, but we know people are going to only stay a short period of time, so we can tolerate them for a short period of time, but then they move on. It's very transactional. And so I think there's a yearning inside of every man and woman that they want to be a part of something, not live life alone. And so I think that applies to business. So one of the great things that I think that helps leaders build residency as opposed to kind of that transient kind of relationship with people is that they have to make an intentional effort to build a place that people not only want to join but want to stay. And a part of that is that the people that join you feel like this is where they belong. And there's ways that you can enhance that so that it's not manufactured. It's just a part of how your community operates together. And so that's one of the things for sure. How do they feel like they belong? Because if they don't, they'll go somewhere else.
Reggie, I don't know if you know this, but I'm starting a roofing company. Did I tell you that?
No, but I saw Owl. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So my questions are, I hope that that's helping the podcast be better, because I'm getting more specific with when you say something. I want to know, like, legitimately, how do I use it now? Are you, and tell me if I'm hearing this wrong, but are you also kind of saying with desk space that they should have their own official desk space at the office, or no? Okay.
No.
Just curious.
I don't think so. I think though they have to. There has to be a sense, and belonging to me is I have a contribution to make, and do you acknowledge it? Do you validate it? And is it a part of, is it a piece that needed to be here that's helping the entire group elevate? That's what I'm talking about. It's really about their level of contribution being received, acknowledged, and needed. And so that's
I think a lot of the reason people have a problem with that, like don't do that well, is because, well, they're throwing a lot of spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks as far as sales reps go. And a lot of people are just, the truth is they are expendable. Wow. They are expendable a little bit in a lot of these roofing companies. It's tough, but there's from what I can tell, there's a lower stringency on the filtering on the front end. And so they just let a lot of people in and then see who wins, because it's such a low, because they're not paying the salary.
I know, but I think you're wrong there. I think you're right, but I think the strategy is wrong. And the reason for it is most roofers don't think about what it costs to rehire. They don't understand the dynamics involved in money. Just money of replacing people, whether you paid them a salary or not. And so what we have done as roofers is we just ignored the value of our time. And so, hey, just bring them in. We got that Indeed ad running. How many people are we going to see today? Because we know probably half of them will be gone 2 weeks from now, and the other half might last 3. And it's a repetitive cycle that doesn't fix anything. It doesn't. It just sustains us. It sustains you having bodies out there doing something and moving property or whatever you want, however you want to look at it. But it doesn't fix anything. And so as a result, we have the only people making money in recruiting today are recruiters. And there's nothing wrong with that, but we've got to come to a reality. Why would you, as the owner of a roofing company in Dow, want to try to find strategies to retain the talent you intentionally hired in the first place? Why would you tell me? You own a roofing company. Why would you decide it's easier to flip and run through people than it is to invest in them to keep them?
Yeah, I'm very used to being really hardcore about trying to retain people. And for like a couple years, I think 2 years or something, we lost only like one person.
Yeah.
That wanted to go elsewhere, and I still don't know exactly why. I still wanted to work with her afterwards.
Yeah.
She was an editor and she worked on my book. But I will probably go into this with a lot more like I want to keep people, because from my point of view, Reggie, like I think about a truck is expensive, training is expensive, the time. I really do believe my time is valuable. And if I'm training people and if my sales leader is training people, then that's super expensive time. And if it doesn't work, it's going to be pretty sad. So I'm going at this with I want to retain them for a long time, but it feels to me like it's very common for them. And it's very common for it to go much faster. That's what it feels like.
Why?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? You're around this industry. Why do you think that is?
Well, you really want to know, Reggie?
I do.
You really want to know? It's because a lot of these people are not great leaders. And the people you're working with, because you work with the top of the top, like you work with the better roofing companies. The reason I'm going to get myself in trouble here, Reggie, but most of these roofing companies that are 10 people have not had or less, have not wore the edges off themselves enough. They're so used to saying what they want to say without restraint that they scare off mature people, because mature people have boundaries. And so they go, okay, well, if you're going to treat me like shit, I'm going elsewhere. So there's a lot of people out there treating their employees like shit. And by the way, I want to treat my employees like shit sometimes. I want to. I feel the inclination, I should say. I don't. I have a lot of restraint because it's been required to me, because I hated watching people go out the door when I freaked out. And sometimes freaking out isn't yelling. Sometimes freaking out is saying something in a really harsh way that was completely unnecessary.
As usual, you say something that interested me. You just said you value something most don't, and that's time. You see, we think till you get my age and you start realizing that time is a commodity that's not worth easy exchange, where you're going like, now, wait a minute. So I might not be shelling out money like this, but someone who goes like, if I'm not shelling out money like this and does not think about what I am doing with my time to invest in those people, and they see that as casual, they're the poor leaders. That's in my opinion. And so the other thing that you said that I find interesting is it's not just the reasons you gave, they've been coached that way. If they've worked for somebody, they go into a business and they see repetitive kind of in, out. We keep people, it's just a revolving door, and they think I want to run my own business, and they go do the same thing. Why would they do different? They just think they can do it better, not different, but they can do it better than the person that they left with the same bad habits. And here's what I know. People sniff it at you. We're really, really good. And guys like you have taught people how to market really, really well. But you've done, not you, but I think there's been a poor level of communication to get people in the door, market to get them in the door, but we don't do anything from keeping them from walking out the back door. So they come in the front door, they get in here and they look inside and they go like this. This is not what I was told. This is kind of what I was hoping, but this ain't what I'm getting. So exit stage right kind of mentality. How do you build something that doesn't just attract people, Tim, but it keeps them? And I I find it hard to believe, and I don't think it has anything to do with size. I don't think it has anything to do with big guys, small guys, anywhere in between. I think it comes down to this, where we decide that our culture, listen, is as valuable to us as our capital. Think about what I just said. I had a company of mine that just sold within the last two months. Pretty substantial multiple. Had private equity come in. They, for a year, spent with these guys trying to figure out all the money, like EBITDA and all that other stuff that we hear. And when they got to the table and they were about to cut checks, the last question that the guy from private equity asked him was this: I understand the math, but you've built something I've never seen. And my guy said, what? He said, my question is this: how have you guarded your culture as much as you've guarded your capital? You see, we live our lives with focus just on revenue and capital, and all that's important. But when you are intentional, no matter how big or small you are, to building a place people feel safe, protected, are willing to give their contribution is acknowledged. Chemistry and collaboration is a part of the blueprint of the success of the business. It's the way you treat people. It's the way you're not just the way you treat, but the way you're treated. And it creates an environment enough to where somebody had this big check waving it at them and saying this, yeah, here's the part of it that, you know, we're impressed with the money, but there's something noticeable about your community. And do you know why? Because they were intentionally committed to put the right pillars in place to build the right kind of business, that their culture was noticed, it attracted people, it kept people, and it brought them a lot of money in the end run. I don't want to hear any more from anybody that culture is some soft skill. It's something that most people just don't have the will to do, because it doesn't show up 30 minutes from now. Because one of the things that you can't, I was on a show the other day with a private equity guy, big one. I call his name, you'd know him. And I said, I got something you can't buy, player. He said, what do you mean? Money will buy anything. I said, no, it won't. I said, you can't buy culture. He said, what are you talking about? I said, if you know what culture really is, it's the guts of the business. It's what binds us together. It's what separates us. It's all of those dynamics that happen inside the company that don't show up on daggum dashboards. I said, how much would you pay for trust? He said, well, you can't buy trust. I said, then how do you get trust? He said, well, I guess you have to earn it. I said, then you can go in and buy businesses till you're blue in the face, but you ain't got enough money to buy their culture, because what they are showing you that you've noticed and they've been intentional about is not for sale. It has to be earned. And so when new private equity comes in and buys companies, and you've heard the horror stories, they'll have 7, 8, 9 different companies that can never get along. You know why? Because they've never made an emphasis of importance on how do we build that culture piece that is sustainable and continues even in the midst of transition. And so I know I get worked up about this stuff, but I've seen it for 20 years now, man. Like, it's just like nobody can tell me anymore. Like, oh, that's soft. No, it is that driver that keeps us on plane even when revenue dips at time. I'll shut up.
No, I mean, hey, we just agree on all of that.
I know.
We agree on all that. I can't even fight you on any of that. It's funny because, like I said, I think like when people stay small, I just think it's their leadership and culture. Like, it's leadership, but it's also culture that they haven't figured out, right? And I think just the law of the lid thing, like you can't grow up, and have a little restraint in the way you talk to people. Because this is what I see. A lot of the people, they do pretty well because they're kind of intense on sales, or their initial 5 guys that they're pretty, you know what I mean? You get in, you're like, we're going to the moon, and they get some hardcore guys with them and they're going hard. But then once you get to that spot where you can't just hoorah past 7 people, you get to 10, and it like keeps on shrinking and going up and down because you keep on scaring off the people that aren't the most extreme personalities. And I think, or you scare out those guys because you fight. You throw the ego at them. Your ego is not your amigo. And then you have this new shattered culture that happens every couple of years. So then when I see somebody small that's been small for a long time, I just assume that they haven't figured out the leadership and culture piece. It is the ultimate lid, right? It is the thing that stops you from growing. And you could say it's sales, but even the guys that are like really good at sales and they get to that point, they get stuck. Because you could sell 5 million yourself at your best year or whatever, but if that's it, right? Like you get 3 other guys that sell 1 million and then you sell 3 million and then you're still stuck. So it's like, and some of those guys are just proud of that. They're happy to get up to 10 and just stay stuck at 10 for the rest of their life.
But everybody tells them, okay, the next rung is to sell to private equity. And so there's this mad rush right now. And so I started asking myself about 3 years ago, why are people so eager to sell? And the easy answer is this. Well, you can make a lot of money. Okay, I get that. But how many people do you know who are interested in building a business that they're not wanting to exit? Or what if you could build a business that you had the choice of exiting or enduring, and you weren't, because here's what I found, Tim, that most people that are interested right now, especially aggressively with private equity in that relationship, is these owners have been carrying so much weight on their own by themselves. Like it is a burden for them. Like the business is profitable, it's doing well, but it just kills them. Like they just no time off. They've not learned how to delegate. They've not really learned how to execute the weight. You know, they don't understand how to share the weight, or they've never wanted to share the weight. And so when private equity comes in going like this, they're like relief. Really, I'm out. Now there's other guys who build to sell. I get that. All I'm saying is this. You can, until you exit or whenever that is, why not build a business where people, including you, want to show up every day because of the people you're with, the contributions you're making to each other's lives, the results you're seeing because of that contribution that is not seen if I do it alone. Who would not want that? And when you really boil it down to that, it puts different perspective on things. And that's what I'm trying to help people to see. Great. You want to sell? Great. But there's a tangible asset inside of your business that is noticeable when it's there and it costs you when it's not, called culture. How do you build that? And what are the fundamentals of that? How do you see things differently so that a part of your resource of time and energy and effort and the collective understanding of people to buy in is there over time? Is that, if that's what you want to do, I can help. If not, just keep charging, keep hustling and grinding. I'm going to say one that's going to make both of your and my friends mad at me, but I said it to their face a jillion times. We talk about it all the time. I'm going to tell you this. Some of the problems that we face in business are not solved by more activity and speed. And we have been led to believe in a lot of different ways the answer to all of our problems is more hustle and grind. My question is this: if I'm a roofer, you got a roofing company now, and you tell your sales guys you got to hit 50 doors a day, and if they hit, I'm just using it as an example, if they hit 50 doors a day, you want out of those 50 doors for them to get inspections, right? They're not just hitting doors to make friends. They're trying to hit doors to get on roofs or look at siding. So if this guy's going out and hit 50 doors for a week every day and he hasn't got anything to a point of inspection, why in God's name would you want him to knock 100 doors a day?
Well, they say it's a numbers game.
Okay, yeah. So in that case, my numbers are I'm 0 for 100.
Okay,
so,
yeah.
And I've had, again, conversation with, and all our buddies, they do great work of equipping people. But I tell them this: slow down. That's another reason people are like, what? What are you saying, Reggie? First, sometimes you need to slow down and assess before you push the accelerator down harder. I want to know why, and he'll tell you if you ask him or her, what happened when you hit those 50 doors that is causing you not to be satisfied with results or me? And let's just figure this out. But here's what we do. Oh, here's another tool. Here's another process. Here's get faster, get more aggressive. You need to be working 100 hours a week instead of 80. Well, if I'm working my 80 hours a week and I suck at what I do, why would you want me to do 100? I don't understand it. And so I believe that a culture is built many times by how you pace the business. Like, how do you pace it? What is in that cadence? What are the things that you're doing? Is every meeting you have around tangible results, our KPIs, our dashboards? Here's what I know, buddy. I will see things inside of companies right now. They're called signals that most leaders overlook because they just don't want to deal with them. I'll go into meetings. I'll listen to their team. I sense disengagement that is obvious, but an owner can see it if he's got his eyes open, but he don't want to deal with it. So what does he do? He moves on because he'll know if he moves on, leaves them alone, they'll leave and he'll find somebody else to fill their spot and get luckier with the next person. It's just a flawed way to build business.
Or we're just, this is probably where I'm at, Reggie, just another version of that. I guess I'm just satisfied. You know what I'm saying? Like once you get a certain amount of, and I'm just being vulnerable because whatever. Once you get a certain amount of success, what's that?
It's Friday afternoon. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's Friday afternoon. We might as well just be real, right?
Right.
You just get to a certain amount of, you're like, well, I'm paid and I feel good about it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like I would like more, but at this point it's a game versus like, I don't need meaningfully more amount of money. And so I think sometimes I don't address issues in a courageous way with the culture. I'm also sometimes trying to let them shake out how they shake out, right? I don't want to be the guy with blood on my hands in the leadership array. So I kind of let other people handle it. But I think there is sometimes stuff that gets unaddressed because I'm satisfied.
Well, and you also got other things. Like you run a daggum business. There are components of the business, and this is the biggest thing that I hear from owners. Reggie, I ain't got time to monitor this. Well, that's what you pay me to do. Like, that's what I do. I track it, I monitor it, I train to it, and I keep track of it. And the reason for it is you're going to see, the problem is you can't come to me day after tomorrow and go like, hey, what's happening here? It takes time. The first thing I've got to do is break walls down. And that wall is where people start believing that they can actually talk about these things and not be judged. They can actually discuss these things and not fear impending danger. And you've got to lead people to that stuff. And again, here you are. I told you the story before we got on the air. You know, what you told me before about how my work is slow and it's difficult at times. And, you know, people want something tomorrow. You were exactly right. You were very prophetic for me in my life. And that's what I've come to understand. But I tell people this all the time. You give me a year with your people and I'll give you back 10 that in return, a predictable outcome like you can't see today. And so, but again, everybody wants something now. You said something else that sparked my interest when you said, hey, I've got all I want. Well, that's the mentality of most owners. They've assumed a lot of risk. They're finally at a point where they're making money and things are good, but they sometimes forget, or maybe they don't, who the business is really about. Is this a me business or is this an us business? Is this something so do you now not lose sleep because you're okay, or do you not lose sleep because somebody's not tending to the other people who might not be okay? There's a dichotomy. I mean, it's tough. Like, you run a business, take all the risk, and then things are good. The last thing you want to do is dip down into the mess again. Okay, I get that. But at the end of the day, if you want to build a business that has legs to it, and legacy left, it's going to have to come through other people, not just your own brand. How do you do that? You build a culture that's filled with clarity, that's filled with collisions that are healthy, not unhealthy, building of chemistry, the ability to understand communication, not as frequency, but accuracy, to understand that collaboration produces things together that can't be done alone. And honestly, the last thing is, how do you acknowledge contribution? Because as you acknowledge contribution, even to the smallest of tasks, you build thread, connective tissue with people that you can't beat them away with a stick. And that's going to appeal to some, and other people are going to go like, I don't care if they stay or not. That's just not my audience. And I'm not even saying it's wrong.
Can you give, like, this last part of the podcast for about 3 minutes, can you just give as specific as you can of like what the service is and what you're doing with people so that people can make a decision on whether they should contact you for this?
So the first thing is we start with what I call why. When you start looking at a crowd of people, a team, so to speak, beginning with leadership, most of us know what we do and how we do it. We don't know why we do it. So we've got a tool that identifies the why, the reason. And if we can keep people in their reason most of their day, they're going to have more success. They're going to have more collaboration. They're going to have more interaction, and it's going to be a healthy organization. The other thing that we do is we've found 6 pillars that I manage regularly with companies to make for sure that alignment stays in place. And I just listed those. I mean, we start with clarity. Most companies, you walk in, and if I isolate people to talk to them and I say, hey, what's your day look like? It'll be very vague, not with a lot of specific. Like, I'm a sales guy, I just go sell. Okay. Finding clarity is really critical to staying in proper direction. So I talk a lot about clarity. We watch this kind of alignment spine, I call it, to where there's really 6 pillars here, and we watch all 6 of those, and then we're watching what's getting out of alignment, because pain will show up, and then we start just kind of bringing things back into alignment. So, this is really about how do you build a company that can withstand pressure, and these are the 6 things that we do every day with people to help them stay in alignment, so that actually not just more individual success can happen, but that teams can start seeing collective growth.
Automate your communication with Proline, the only communication-first CRM for roofers. Because when you fix your communication, you'll sell more jobs.
Had 200% growth, and I attribute that to Proline.
But just with one automation, I was able to get 25 Google reviews.
Proline's not going to win the beauty pageant, but it will save your Saturday.
So it seems like it's like you got coaching layered in with surveys and a platform essentially that uses, I mean, you said you use AI to aggregate some of these insights as well. So essentially it's a platform that allows you to pulse surveys out to your people, get back insights that are going to help you with your culture and frankly with your where you might be out of alignment, like you said, with your leadership and how it feels to the team. I think there's not a lot of pulse there a lot of times because people are sometimes afraid. Even if you're a great leader, I think sometimes people are afraid to give you that feedback, but now you're asking for it.
But the only way a leader can't feel pulse is if they're disconnected from the body. And so that's the first thing I look at is, what do you tell me? You talk to me about the condition of your team in these 6 areas, and then I'm going to go find out. Like, I want to hear what they're saying. And generally I come back and I say, you're just disconnected from the body. You're guessing. And so one of the things that my platform does is it takes the guesswork out of managing and making decisions, because I'm getting data fresh from the horse's mouth. Like, there's not and I'm getting it early. So it doesn't show up in this damage report. It shows up into an an alignment report basically. And so I think that one of the key identifiers to me is, how accurate are you? Because I'll know your team better than you will in 30 days. I promise. And the reason for it is that's the place I'm in. I'm that connective tissue between leadership and their team, ultimately walking away from it when that tissue is strengthened enough to operate. And so, it's not just about not just about like surveys and all that other stuff. It's literally, if you put a gun to my head, this is what I would say to you. I think that I want to help people build cultures that can withstand pressure. Because if you can withstand pressure, you can withstand the causes of the pressure that come along with it. And you'll be better prepared for it the next time it rolls around, and it doesn't create undue damage. But it's intentional, and as it gets put into place, it's very noticeable. And whether you want to exit or you want to endure, you'll come to work every day in a different frame of mind, and it will show up in the collective growth of the entire team. So that's kind of the story.
I've just got to be a little real with you, Reggie. I'd be afraid to have that level of accountability as a leader.
Yeah. And that's okay. Here's one thing that I've come to terms with. This is what I've come to terms with. Some will, some won't. And all I'm after is who's available. Who does this resonate with? So when I get on a podcast like this, I know that 90% of the people that hear this are going to go like way too much. But there's a 10% of people who want to be a part of a movement like this that can restore back to them really what creates longevity, creates legacy in a way that they want it. And they don't feel forced to exit something because of the burden. And there's a small group of people. My audience is not like everybody and their mother. Most of them are Tim Browns. Like they're just like
beautiful though. I'm getting the objections out there because I think it's probably going to be helpful for one of your prospects. But what you just said, I think, is the most attractive part. Making the burden making the business be less of a burden to you by digging these things up and by addressing them. Because there's sometimes like an ache or like a fever in a company. And if you can get this stuff dug up and fixed, then potentially you'll want to have this company longer. You don't need to sell it.
Well, and you won't want to. Needing and wanting are two different things. And so what I try to want, I would love to go into, I love going into places where I feel like, have you ever been to a store or something where everybody's just like, you can feel the vibe. They want to be there. They enjoy what they're doing. And you go into most roofing companies today and people are in protective mode. They're just kind of like, okay, wait a minute, I need to. And so if I could ever be a part of helping to build something, and it starts with weight distribution with a leader. Like most of these guys are wanting to sell because the weight's too heavy. Let's start managing the weight more effectively. And then if you want to sell. But you're going to do that by building a culture that people want to help you distribute the weight. And until you reach that point of, this is an us story, not a me story, things will continue the same way. So whoever's out there who maybe feel overwhelmed and burdened right now with your business, selling is not the only strategy. There are ways that you can distribute the weight inside of the organization so that you can live the life you want. And if you want to sell, you sell. And if you want to keep it, you keep it. The future still belongs to you.
I love that. Are there different pricing tiers for working with you on this, or is it all just one package?
No, it depends on the amount of employees. Basically, we tier from like usually around 10 to 20 employees, and we have 3 different tiers. But most of our pricing is based around it's just based around employee count, and I do some really cool assessment work on the front end that I get a lot of people who just want me to do the assessment work. And so I'm good with that too. But
what does that cost? Am I allowed to ask that?
Which one? The assessments?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we do, like I told you earlier, we try to find reason before role. And we use a tool that's provided by a company called the Why Institute, WHY. And so we assess the why assessment. It's about a 3 to 5 minute assessment. And it really isolates motivation. Like it's just motivation. Like, because what you're motivated by, how you're wired will end up telling you and defining what you do and how you do it. It also tells you who you work best with. So I do an entire study with a team and I'll do all their whys. And then we pull together these energy maps and we look at where the friction is, where the flow is, and where there's some neutrality in terms of talents and ability, not just talents and abilities, but motivation. And then we start pairing. And the proper pairing, once you understand proper pairing, and then there's a level of chemistry between that group of people, then we start seeing changes happen in output. And so the assessments, I mean, they're like $75 a person. I mean, it's not crazy money, but
okay. So there's a way to get in the door with you and get some initial like work done without like it being super heavy. I think that was the other fear I had if I wanted to do this, is like around the upfront investment. The ability to start doing something with you is not that expensive.
No, I literally hung up a phone call I was on before I got on this podcast, and the guy told me, he goes like, "How do you live charging no more than you do?" I said, "Very well." like I'm happy, dude. Like, I don't want anybody to look at this and ever be able to say, "I really want to do that." And this goes back to that what my dad has deposited in me. I don't want anybody to be able to look at this opportunity and go, "I need that," and be able to say, "I can't afford that." And so my pricing is goofy low, comparatively speaking, for the value gained, but it just takes people who are willing to dig in and go like, "I got to bite down here, and I've got to be willing to take some time." I'm going to show you every week indicators of the trends that are shifting. You're going to see that, and then you're going to see it reflected in, but to your point, they're not going to leave this seminar that I'm doing and go out and sell $100,000 today because I gave them some sales tip. This is a long play, but it has long tail to it that creates the long impact that most people are looking for.
Well, you got me very interested, Reggie. I think the ability to disperse, the things that really stuck out to me, the ability to disperse weight better amongst your team and to decrease the ache that would make you sell early, because that could be the difference between a couple million or $10 million in your valuation. Right. But if you give up early, that could cost you $10 million. So the ability to disperse and to decrease the ache in your company culture and your leadership could be a pretty big deal for your bottom line. So I think it ultimately is extremely, extremely important.
If everything you're looking for is relief, you're shortchanging yourself. And a lot of times, because of the burden is so heavy, all they look for is somebody to come in and give me relief, cut me a check, and get me out of this. You don't have to do that. There are other strategies. So I appreciate that, and I think you've captured it perfectly.
Reggie, always a pleasure. The last time you were on the show, it made it onto I had a keynote at RoofCon, and I name checked you. And was talking about like it was kind of the pivotal moment in my shift in my mindset on getting visibility and not being purposeful about what impact I wanted to make. So I just want to thank you for that too, because it was a pretty important moment in the way I'm thinking about my job. So thank you for that.
I want to thank you for what was perceived to be maybe the conversation you and I had that same day. Well, you told, or leading up to that event, we talked about it. And I'm going to go ahead and say this because I think it may resonate with somebody as we close. We were putting this event together, and, at the essence of that was we need to find somebody who can draw people, because you can't really, Reggie. And it's no. And that's just basically, if you know Tim Brown, that's kind of the way he does stuff. It's just like, just to the point, let's move on, which I love, by the way. And it didn't offend me, but it jolted me. I went like, what? But I was in the place that I really wanted to fill the room, man. I really wanted to. And that harsh reality hit. And do you know why? You told me why. The kindness came after when you said that. The whole thing was kind to me. But you said this. It's because the work you do is deep, and most people need to leave this room and go they need to be able to take what you tell them and make money on it tomorrow. That ain't you, Reggie. And here's the deal. Tim Brown was right. And now I've learned to accept it as a part of who I am. What comes out of my belly as I close what'll come out of your belly that part of you shared enough will find audience. I'm not really interested in who doesn't belong to me. I need those who have ears to hear and go like, whoa, now wait a minute, what? you can help me distribute the weight inside this organization and grow my culture at the same time at a reasonable, okay, let's talk. And to everyone else, I wish them well. But if we don't match up in terms of us working together, we can all still be friends. And that's the way I feel.
Thank you, Reggie. Appreciate you being on again. This has been awesome. Where can people go to check it out?
They can go to that culturaldisruptor.com. They can find a little bit more information. I'm all over social media, probably more than most won't, but you can find me there. I'm going to be in SRC next week, and then I'm going to be at Top Rep, speaking at Top Rep the following week. So busy February.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I've
been rounding out my podcasts with reading a review for Hook Agency. So here's one from a client of ours, Carly Hone, who said, I simply could not be happier. We are an old school company that has never done anything with SEO or really much of a website other than having one exist. I was extremely skeptical at first, and now I can genuinely say I could not be happier. The work they did for me was professional, timely, and true to my organization. They listened to all my feedback and turned our website into something I'm so proud of. It is true to us, but also high functioning. Our rankings, organic leads, Google performance, et cetera, is taking off like never before. Hook is a true partner for us, and I cannot wait to see how much growth and success we have together. I highly recommend them to any contractor.
Me too.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you, Carly. And thank you, brother. I'm sure I'll be mentioning something from this that sits with me in a podcast or a keynote one day in 2 years. Isn't that fun, though? I can't believe I got to do that. I was so excited to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I saw it. I watched it. It was fantastic. Like, you could there's a couple things I noticed. I noticed that you were prepared. This was, you see a lot of folks that get up there and they have great intention and great heart, but their preparation probably lacked a little bit. You were prepared. And the message that you presented was one that I think there were ears that needed to hear. And so you're genuine. It came out of your belly. That's my new phrase. What's coming out of your belly? Because out of your innermost being flows your rivers of life. And I felt that. So congratulations, and there'll be plenty more.
Appreciate it very much. Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Tell B and the team hello for me.
Yes, sir. I will do that. Right. Thank you very much for taking the time today.
Thanks, Tim. See you.
They're so thorough with every detail of the website. Working with Hook, the design is probably 50x better than any other design I've ever had. Their team is super communicative, and I mean this genuinely. I'm happy to pay you guys to work with us. It's been a tremendous experience.